All right, let's look at Michaels, Hobby Lobby, and Joann's. There were a couple people in that comment thread that said that one of them was better than the other two, and I was honestly surprised at which one they picked, but my job is just to provide the information, so let's get to it. First, let's start with Joann's. Back in the early 2000s, they were pretty active, then they cooled down a little bit, and then in 2020, they ramped it up. But most of their donations were very blue. In fact, 2012 and 2022 were the only 2 years that they donated more to Republicans than they did Democrats. Let's look at Joann's lobbying profile. They were pretty active from 2011 to 2014, but then they took a dip in 2015 and 2016. And then in 2017, they got pretty active again. Now let's move towards Michaels. Michaels has actually just switched blue very recently, and even then, they still don't donate very much. But in the 90s to early 2000s, they were extremely red. They don't do much lobbying, though. The only year that they lobbied was in 2014. Now the one everyone wants to see, Hobby Lobby. And this may surprise you, but that won't. But I did get very curious. I wanted to know where that blue money was going. From Hobby Lobby, there's no telling. But then I looked it up and it's Nancy Pelosi, so that makes a lot of sense, actually. Now let's look at starting salary. For cashiers, Michaels only starts at $11.69, and the only perks that it provides is an employee discount. Honestly, that's the same for most of these. Joann starts at $10.76, which is the lowest. But they do offer bonuses for what it's worth. I don't know if that applies to cashiers or not, but there's that. Now, Hobby Lobby surprisingly actually pays the most. They start off at $12.26, but no bonuses, just employee discount. Now let's look at employee reviews. It's about 4 stars for Michael. Most of the ratings are 3 to 4 stars for Joann, and surprisingly 5 stars for Hobby Lobby. Now there's a whole bunch of stuff here that can't really be graphed. For instance, the health insurance policies and all that stuff. And personally, I don't like any of these 3 companies, but when I do shop for art supplies because I do paint, I usually shop at Michaels because they seem to be the closest to what I would want out of a company. They haven't really contributed politically since the 90s, and their pay, while not as good as Hobby Lobby, is still better than Joann's. Also, I've noticed that they have sales all the time, so the prices are pretty reasonable. But I'll be honest, after seeing this comment, I'm definitely going to have to do a little bit more research. Because for me, the most important thing is how they treat their employees. Now with Hobby Lobby, obviously, with their insurance, the way it's set up, that's a no-go for me. But if I do more research and find out that they don't treat their employees very well, then I guess I won't shop at Michaels. Now, I know not everybody can act this way, and I'm privileged in the way that I can choose where I shop. But with my privilege, I absolutely will choose where I shop.